The sky over Outpost 7 had turned green before the sirens ever screamed. Private Jason Kell gripped his rifle tighter as the wind shifted direction. The air smelled like burnt plastic and cold iron. He looked around the camp and saw others still, half asleep, trying to grab gear while alarms echoed off the metal walls. The enemy wasn't supposed to be here. The last report said they were light years away, trapped behind a nebulous storm. But now the soldiers of Earth were scrambling for cover as dropships broke through the clouds like falling stars. Jason ran to the west barricade, just in time to see something land. It wasn't a fighter. It wasn't even a war beast. It was a transport, and someone inside was screaming. He didn't hesitate. While everyone else raised weapons, Jason lowered his and ran straight into the smoke. His breath burned, his boots slid on broken glass, but he followed the cry deeper into the ruined outpost. There, inside the cracked hull of the alien pod, was a child. Not human, pale blue skin, glowing white eyes. Small horns curled above her ears. She was bleeding fast from her side and gasping weakly in fear. "Medic!" Jason yelled, but no one came. They were too busy holding the line. The girl's body trembled as her breath slowed. Without thinking, he pulled a sharp injector from his pack and stabbed it into his own arm. Human blood wasn't supposed to be compatible. But war changed rules. Jason had heard rumors that some species could adapt to donor blood in crisis. He didn't know if it would work. He just watched the tube run red. The child blinked, then blinked again. Her chest rose more steadily. Her fingers moved. Jason fell back on the floor, dizzy, lightheaded from the rapid loss of blood, but smiling. Anyway, she was going to live. Moments later, a shadow covered him. He looked up and saw her, not a soldier, not a queen. Something else entirely. She stood tall with burning silver eyes and shimmering armor that pulsed like fire underwater. She didn't speak at first. She only looked down at her daughter, now cradled in Jason's arms, and her voice finally came like thunder in a silent valley. "You bled for her?" Jason nodded. He was too weak to stand, too confused to talk. The alien woman moved closer and dropped to one knee. Her hand hovered over the girl's face, trembling slightly before she rested it gently on the child's head. "My blood could not save her," the alien mother whispered. "Yours did. You have changed what was written. The bond must now be honored." Jason frowned. "What bond?" Her answer was not soft. "In our law, he who saves the young must stand as mate to the mother. You gave life to our future. Now I must give life to yours." Jason's brain stuttered. His heart pounded harder than in battle. "Wait, what? That can't be real." "That's not." She touched his chest, and a warm pulse ran through him. Something deep and ancient sparked behind her glowing eyes. She wasn't angry. She wasn't grateful. She was something far more dangerous, determined. Outside, explosions rocked the hills. The war was still raging, but Jason's world had narrowed to one impossible moment in the ruins. A human soldier, an alien mother, and a blood bond neither could escape. He tried to sit up. His legs didn't move. His lips were dry. "Look, I'm just a guy, a soldier. I didn't mean anything by it. I just wanted to help. And that," she said softly, "is why your kind must be claimed before others try to take you." Jason stared at her. "Claimed?" She stood again, powerful and graceful, lifting the child easily with one arm. Then she extended her free hand toward him and waited without speaking. He didn't know what scared him more, her strength, her beauty, or the fact that she didn't seem to be joking. Somewhere in the smoke, a second alien ship landed. Different colors, different crest. Her eyes sharpened. She looked toward the ridge and said one word that froze Jason's blood. "Hunters." Then she turned back to him. "They've come for the one who saved royal blood. If you stay here, you die. If you come with me, you live, and you belong to me." Jason looked at her hand again, then he took it. Asterisk. Jason's grip tightened around the alien mother's hand as she pulled him into the burning wreckage behind them. Blasts echoed in the distance, and the sky was black with smoke. His knees felt weak, but he kept moving. Behind them, enemy scouts were landing in waves. These weren't the usual invaders. Their armor was dark and thorned, and their weapons gave off a sound that made his ears ring. Even the ground shook under their boots. Who are they? Jason asked breathlessly as they reached a narrow canyon between shattered rocks. The alien woman didn't turn her head. She carried the child close to her chest while she moved swiftly like a ghost through the dust. They are called the Varnak. They destroy what they do not understand. You saved royal blood. That makes you a target of high value, she said. Jason cursed under his breath. So I'm a walking bullseye just for doing the right thing. He stumbled, but she caught him. Her strength surprised him again. She was smooth and warm to the touch, yet her muscles were like stone. You are more than that now, she replied. By our laws, you are bound to me. But even without the bond, they would come. Human blood was never meant to mix with ours. Now that it has, everything changes. They found a hidden cave with roots hanging from the ceiling and glowing moss lining the walls. The air was cooler here, and Jason's head began to clear. He finally got a good look at the alien child resting in her arms. She had her mother's silver eyes, but her skin was a little darker now, almost like it absorbed some human tint. Jason saw his own dog tags tied around her tiny wrist. You put those on her? He asked. The woman nodded. She would not stop crying until she felt your scent again. It calmed her. She thinks of you as her second parent now. Jason stared at the girl and tried to speak, but nothing came out. He wasn't ready to be a soldier, let alone a father. A loud rumble echoed through the cave walls. The entrance flashed red with light. The Finghu woman pushed him gently toward a deep crevice hidden behind thick vines. In here, she said. Stay quiet. They crouched inside the narrow split as shadows passed outside. Jason could hear the Varnak snorting and hissing in their strange tongue. One of them paused right in front of the vines and sniffed the air slowly. Jason held his breath. The child stirred in the mother's arms. Jason could feel the vibration of her tiny heartbeat next to him. He wrapped one arm around both of them without even thinking. The Varnak moved on. The sounds faded slowly. The woman let out a slow exhale, then turned her face toward him. For the first time, she looked uncertain. You are not like the others, she said. Jason smiled faintly. I've been told that before. She looked at him for a long moment, then spoke softly. I am Velshara, matron of the Azari. You now carry our royal essence inside your veins. That changes your place in the galaxy. Jason looked down at his hand. His veins did look darker now, faintly glowing like hers. His blood had truly changed. What happens to me now? He asked. She touched his chest gently. You are no longer fully human. You will live longer, heal faster. But the hunters will chase you forever, unless you become one of us fully. He blinked. What does that mean? She looked away. It means taking the vow. Sharing your life with mine. Becoming a bonded mate in body and soul. Jason felt like the cave was spinning. He had only tried to help a dying child. Now he was being asked to marry into an alien. Royal bloodline. Velshara stood up and unrolled a small glowing scroll from her side pouch. It shimmered with moving symbols. This is the vow. Once spoken, it cannot be undone. I will not force it. But the hunters will not stop until you are claimed. Jason looked at the scroll, then at her. She looked so strong, so fearless. But he could see something trembling behind her steady eyes. She was afraid too. Jason sat with the glowing scroll in his lap, staring at the strange symbols that danced across its surface. They moved like rivers, constantly shifting, yet always returning to the same shape. The light pulsed like a heartbeat. Velshara didn't pressure him. She stood quietly nearby, watching over her child who now rested in a soft bed of moss. The silence between them was not empty, it carried weight. It carried choices. He wanted to ask 100 questions about her world, her people, her child, what this vow would mean. But every time he opened his mouth, his thoughts collapsed into silence again. Jason wasn't afraid of battle. He had faced enemies, death, and blood. But this was different. This wasn't war. This was a bond, a life decision. And it had arrived without warning. Velshara finally spoke. You have already saved her life, and by doing that, you changed mine. I do not ask you to love me today. I ask you to walk beside me so the hunters will never take you away. He stood up slowly and walked to her side. She looked taller than before, but maybe it was because of how steady she was. Her presence filled the cave like firelight in the dark. I don't know what I'm doing, Jason said. But I'll protect her. And you, no matter what happens. She nodded once. It wasn't a gesture of triumph. It was respect. She handed him a small blade made from crystal and bone. Speak the vow, cut your palm, let our blood mix. That is the way of bonding. Jason held the blade and looked at his hand. The steel was warm, almost alive. He closed his eyes, whispered the words Velshara had taught him, and made the cut. It was not deep, but it bled easily. Velshara did the same. Their hands met in the center of the cave. Their blood touched and sizzled with light. A strange wind passed through the rocks, and Jason felt something shift inside him. His heart didn't just beat for himself anymore. The scroll glowed brightly and then vanished into smoke. Jason felt a rush of warmth through his veins. Velshara gasped and clutched his arm. Her skin pulsed brighter, and the mark of their bond formed on her neck. It was done. Before either of them could speak, a sound echoed from outside. Not weapons. Voices, shouts. Dozens of them. They weren't Varnak. They were human. Jason moved quickly to the edge of the cave and peered out. Soldiers. Earth uniforms. They were scanning the area with drones and barking orders. Jason's heart jumped with both hope and panic. Would they help or shoot first and ask later? Velshara looked concerned. Do they know what you've become? Jason shook his head. They'll see you and think you're the enemy. He stepped out from the cave slowly with his hands raised. Don't shoot. I'm Corporal Jason Kell. I'm alive. The nearest soldier turned fast and aimed. Drop the weapon. I'm unarmed, Jason said. I've got survivors with me. Non-hostile. I need medical evac. More soldiers came forward. Their leader stepped closer, eyes narrowing. You were reported Kior 2 days ago. Where have you been, soldier? Jason looked over his shoulder. Velshara and her child stepped out behind him. Their silver eyes glowed in the light. The human soldiers instantly raised their rifles again. Hold fire, Jason shouted. She saved my life and I saved theirs. We're bonded now. She's under my protection. The commander looked stunned. Bonded? What the hell does that mean? Jason didn't answer. He just held Velshara's hand and stood firm. It means I'm not leaving them behind. The commander lowered his weapon slowly. You better come with us. There'll be questions, a lot of them. Velshara looked uneasy, but Jason nodded. We'll answer them. But first, get her child medical care. She's not stable yet. The medics moved quickly. They scanned the child and began treatment. Velshara stayed close, but her eyes never left Jason's. She trusted him now. Jason sat on the edge of the field med tent, watching Velshara pace back and forth. Her daughter lay on a cushioned bed, connected to a set of machines designed for alien biology. The lights blinked softly, steady but unreadable. A human nurse offered Velshara water, but she refused. Her sharp eyes stayed fixed on her child. The room held a strange silence, broken only by soft mechanical beeping. Jason could feel the tension pressing against his skin. A scientist stepped inside holding a datapad. She glanced at Jason first, then at Velshara, then back to the monitors. Her expression tightened with surprise. "We ran the blood match 3 times. It's real. Human and Azari blood have merged." Jason leaned forward. "What does that mean for the kid?" The scientist hesitated. "It means her DNA is stable. Healthier, even. But it's also rewritten. She's not just Azari anymore. She's something new." Velshara turned sharply. "Is she safe?" The scientist nodded slowly. "Yes, but there's another problem. Command has been informed. They're worried. Some see this as a contamination. Others see it as a threat." Jason stood up. "So what are they going to do?" "They want to isolate you both for further testing," the scientist said. "And the child. Some are even talking about military detainment. They don't understand what you've created." Jason clenched his fists. "I didn't create anything. I saved a life." Velshara stepped between him and the human. Her voice was calm but dangerous. "If they try to cage her, they will learn what a mother's wrath feels like." The scientist backed away. "I'm just delivering the message. You're being moved to a secure holding area. Higher authorities are coming." 2 guards entered. They kept their weapons lowered, but stayed alert. One of them gestured to the exit. "Follow us, sir, ma'am. The child will be transported safely." Jason looked at Velshara and nodded. She picked up her daughter with care and followed close behind. No one spoke as they were escorted through a long hallway toward the underground levels of the base. The room they were placed in wasn't a cell, but it wasn't freedom either. White walls, no windows. A single camera blinked in the corner. Jason sat near the door while Velshara rocked her sleeping daughter gently. He could feel her frustration. She didn't belong in cages, even polished ones. She was a warrior, a leader, and now she was trapped because of him. Jason stood and walked to the wall. "This is wrong. You helped us. You saved lives, and now they're treating you like a risk." Velshara didn't look up. "They fear what they do not control." He turned around. "Then we show them we're not a threat. We explain everything. We cooperate." She met his eyes. "You still think logic will stop fear?" Before he could answer, the door opened. A woman in a high-ranking uniform stepped in. Her eyes were sharp, her posture firm. "I'm Colonel Yates. I speak for command now." Jason stood straighter. "Colonel, this isn't right. They need medical care, not interrogation." Colonel Yates raised a hand. "I've read the reports. I'm not here to punish you. I'm here to understand what exactly you've done." Jason sighed. "I donated blood. That's it." Yates shook her head. "That's not all. You bonded. Your DNA changed. Your connection to her daughter isn't just chemical. It's biological. Some people up top think it's weaponization. Others think it's evolution." Velshara stood slowly, still holding her child. "We do not make weapons from children." Yates didn't blink. "I agree. That's why I convinced them to let me speak to you before anything worse happened. But make no mistake, this is bigger than us now." Jason walked closer. "Then tell them the truth. This was never about power. It was survival." Colonel Yates nodded slowly. "I believe you. But belief isn't enough. You'll need to prove it to the council." Jason swallowed hard. What if they don't listen? Yates looked at him, then at Velshara. "Then the galaxy may lose its chance to understand something truly rare. Peace born from blood." Velshara stepped forward and said the one word Jason hadn't expected. "Then we fight." Colonel Yates didn't flinch at Velshara's words. The silence in the room stretched as tension grew between the 3 of them. Jason stepped between them, not to block, but to ground the moment before it cracked. "We're not enemies." he said firmly. "We don't want war, we want to be heard." Yates nodded slowly. "Then help me help you. The council is watching. Every move matters now." Velshara looked down at her child. "We cannot remain locked away like animals. My daughter needs sunlight, air. Her body is still adapting to the blood. She must live freely to survive." Yates turned toward the wall and tapped a command on her wrist console. "There's a facility not far from here, open terrain. Safer than this bunker. I'll take the risk. I'll transfer you there." Jason narrowed his eyes. "You're doing this on your own?" "No," she said. "I'm doing it without asking for permission first." "That's different." 3 hours later, a stealth carrier lifted off under nightfall. Jason sat strapped beside Velshara, who held her child gently beneath a soft blanket. Her eyes stayed focused on the clouds outside the window. The new site was nothing like the bunker. It was open, green, and alive. Trees moved in the wind. A stream ran nearby. Alien birds circled the sky. Jason stepped out and immediately felt his lungs fill easier. Velshara smiled faintly. "This air feels like the moons of Kelthera." Jason grinned. "That sounds nicer than Earth's deserts." Yates gave them space but remained nearby, talking with her security team quietly. She wasn't relaxed, but she wasn't tense anymore. She was watching, learning, waiting. The child woke slowly. Her small hand reached out and brushed Jason's arm. He looked down and saw her staring at him with bright silver blue eyes. She didn't speak, but she smiled. Jason knelt beside her. "Hey there, warrior, you feeling better?" She nodded once and leaned against him. Velshara watched with a soft expression Jason hadn't seen before. It wasn't just relief. It was wonder. "She chose you," Velshara whispered. "She feels your heart even when you are far." Jason looked away for a moment. "I'm not sure I deserve that. You bled without asking for reward. That is the highest form of worth in my people." As the sun dipped lower, Yates approached again. "I received a message from the council. They've agreed to hear your case. But you must come to the core chamber. That means public appearance. Full trial. Full risk." Velshara didn't hesitate. "We will go," Jason blinked. "Just like that?" "We cannot change minds by hiding," Yates exhaled. "The transport leaves at dawn. You'll be given armor, translattors, and diplomatic escort. But understand, if this goes badly, there's no backup plan." Jason stood tall. "Then we make it go right." That night, the three of them sat beneath a sky full of stars. Velshara told stories of her people's old wars, of their migration through stars, and the promise made to protect royal bloodlines with honor. Jason listened quietly. He wasn't sure if he was hearing myths or memories, but he knew one thing. They weren't so different from human tailies after all. The child curled up in his lap and slept peacefully. He rested his hand gently over her back. Her breathing was calm, soft, steady. Velshara shifted closer. "You feel it, don't you?" He nodded. "I've never felt this kind of purpose before." "You were meant for more than one world." "Jason," he smiled faintly. "Maybe, or maybe I just got lucky." "No," she said softly. "You were chosen by fate. And now, fate watches us all." The wind rustled through the trees as the fire beside them burned low. Yates remained a respectful distance away, still awake, still alert. But she, too, seemed to understand something was changing, not just between them, but across the stars. Asterisk. The transport ship landed with a soft thud on the golden tiles of the Galactic Council courtyard. It was not a place for war, but the soldiers, stationed nearby, still held plasma rifles across their chests with quiet authority. Jason stepped out first, dressed in clean military gear marked with Earth's flag and a new crest etched across his shoulder. Velshara walked beside him, dressed in ceremonial robes of her people, glowing gently beneath the rising sun. Between them walked the child, holding one hand from each of her guardians. Though she was small, her presence drew attention. Council. Guards stopped talking. Delegates paused their steps. The three of them walked forward in silence. Inside the chamber, light poured from the ceiling like liquid gold. Rows of seats rose high above the center platform, filled with faces from every sector of the galaxy. From scaled to feathered, cloaked to metallic, all had come. A voice echoed across the hall. Jason Kell of Earth, Velshara of the Azari. You stand before the council not as criminals, but as an anomaly. Explain what has occurred. Jason stepped forward and looked around. I was stationed at Outpost 7. We were attacked. During that chaos, I found her daughter dying. I gave my blood to save her. It worked. Murmurs spread through the chamber. One delegate stood. You mixed blood with Azari royalty. That act is sacred. You have changed something that should not be changed. Velshara raised her chin. The bond was not made from ambition. It was born of instinct. My daughter was fading. He gave what even our healers could not. His blood. His will. Another counselor leaned forward. What? Is she now human, Azari, or something else? Jason turned toward the child and nodded. She's both. And neither. She's alive because two species came together. That's all that matters. An older councilwoman spoke slowly. The fear is not of the child. The fear is of what this union may cause. Alliances will shift. Bloodlines will blur. Powers will fall. Yates stood from the observer's bench. Then maybe it's time for those powers to change. Maybe it's time we stop treating new life like a threat. Velshara placed her hand on Jason's shoulder. We did not ask for this war. We only asked for mercy. And in return, we offered unity. A new screen lit up above the chamber. It displayed medical reports, DNA scans, and biological charts. A scientist began explaining the fusion markers found in the child's blood. She's stable, strong, immune to diseases from both species. Her cells regenerate quickly. Her mind is sharp, faster learning curve than expected. She could represent a path to galactic harmony if protected, not feared. Another delegate stood up sharply. And if others try to force this bond, if humans and aliens begin breeding recklessly, Jason looked directly at him. Then let them. You think it's easy? You think we did this for fun? I bled out alone in a crater to save a stranger. I didn't expect anything in return. The room grew quiet again. The child took a step forward and raised her small voice. I had no heartbeat. He gave me one. My mother gave me love. Now I give you peace. Gasps filled the chamber. Delegates leaned forward. Some stood. No one spoke at first. Then the High Counselor stepped down from the dais and approached the trio. He looked at the child, then at Jason, then at Velshara. Your actions cannot be undone. But they have shown us something rare: selflessness, connection, hope. He turned toward the assembly. Let this not be treated as a crime. Let this be studied, understood, and perhaps embraced. The crowd erupted into noise. Some cheered. Some protested. Some sat in stunned silence. But nothing would return to the way it was before. Jason exhaled slowly. Velshara touched his hand again. The child smiled between them, unaware of the storm they had just survived, but deeply aware of the future they were building. The council's decision spread through the galaxy like fire in dry grass. News networks called it historic. Political blocs debated endlessly, and extremist groups on both sides screamed of corruption or betrayal. Jason and Velshara were granted temporary sanctuary under galactic law. They were moved to a high-security diplomatic compound, surrounded by both Earth and Azari guards. Outside, reporters waited behind shields and drones hovered above trees. Jason walked the garden path slowly. watching the child skip ahead between bushes and flowering trees. Despite everything, she smiled with joy and wonder at every butterfly and chirping alien bird. Velshara stood nearby, her posture alert but graceful. Her eyes never left her daughter. Every muscle in her body moved like a mother ready to shield her child with her life. Jason caught up to her. "I didn't expect to become a symbol of peace. I just wanted to save a life." "You did both," Velshara said. "And now others want to take what you've made." He turned sharply. "Someone tried again?" "Last night," she said quietly. "A drone disguised as a gift. Had I not checked the frequency, it would have released nerve gas into our room." Jason clenched his fists. "We're not safe here." Velshara stepped closer. "We are not safe anywhere, but we are visible now. That is a kind of shield." Later that day, a group of representatives arrived to speak with them. They were not counselors or scientists. They were parents. Human, Azari, and other species who had lost children to war. One father spoke first. "My son died in a raid. Number one came for him. No one bled for him. What you did, it gives me hope." A mother with feathered skin stepped forward. "If your bond can heal, can it be shared? Can others survive the way your daughter did?" Velshara answered gently. "Not all species will accept human blood. Not all humans would risk it, but the possibility is real." Jason added, "We don't know what this will mean. But if it saves lives, even one more, isn't it worth trying?" They nodded slowly and left in peace. Outside the compound, protests still raged. Some held signs of peace. Others held fire. That night, Jason couldn't sleep. He sat under the stars beside a quiet fountain, watching the sky blink with distant satellites and carriers. Velshara joined him without speaking. She sat beside him, close but not touching. They stayed like that for a while. Two soldiers from different worlds, wrapped in a silence only they understood. "I didn't ask for this," Jason said. "Nor did I," she replied. "But I don't regret it." "Neither do I," he turned his head. Her silver eyes caught the moonlight and shimmered. "Do you think this will last, us? This peace?" She didn't smile, but her voice was steady. "Not unless we protect it, with teeth, with heart, with sacrifice." Jason leaned forward, elbows on his knees. "Then I'll protect it, her, you. I don't care what they call me. You are father, you are soldier, you are bridge." He laughed softly. "Bridge sounds boring," she raised a brow. "Then let it be your strongest title." A warning. Alarm chirped quietly from the building. Jason stood at once. Another threat? Yates appeared on the balcony above them. "Not yet. But intel suggests Varnak mercenaries are inbound. Someone paid them well." Velshara stood too. "Then the council must act before the enemy does." "They won't," Yates said. "Not fast enough." Jason looked at the sky again. "Then we do," Velshara nodded. "Let them come." The child stepped out onto the grass, sleepy-eyed and clutching a glowing plush. She looked at them and blinked softly. Jason picked her up and kissed her forehead. "We protect her at all costs," he said. The attack came just before sunrise. Silent engines cut through the clouds as 3 Varnak gunships hovered over the compound. Their shadows stretched across the garden like the claws of a giant beast. Jason woke to the sound of breaking glass and blaring sirens. He rolled from bed, grabbed his weapon, and ran straight for Velshara and the child. Velshara was already armed, crouched low with her daughter behind her. "They're here," she said calmly. 3 ships, 40 soldiers. "No warnings," Jason nodded. "Then we hold the line." They moved fast through the corridors. Yates barked orders over comms, directing soldiers to defense points. Drones zipped into position. Shields rose over the outer walls. But it was clear, the Varnak were not here to negotiate. They landed with precision and fury. Their weapons tore through defenses like paper. The outer shield held for only 60 seconds before it collapsed in a wave of sparks. Jason dragged the child into a reinforced room as Velshara turned back to fight. He looked her in the eyes. "Don't die out there." She gave a sharp nod. "Nor should you." The door sealed behind her. Jason knelt by the child, his pulse racing. "You stay quiet, you stay low, I'll come back, I promise." She didn't speak. She just reached out and pressed her hand over his chest. Jason stood and turned to face the door. Then he ran back out into the fire. Velshara moved like lightning. Her blades glowed with energy as she struck down enemy after enemy. Jason caught up with her near the center fountain where the fight was thickest. "I count 20 left," he said. "Then we cut 20 down," she replied. The two fought back to back. Plasma fire lit the air. Smoke burned their lungs. But they didn't stop. They didn't break. Together they carved a path through the chaos. Yates arrived with reinforcements. A Varnak captain charged forward with a heavy cannon. Jason leapt in front of Velshara, took the shot full in the chest, and fell. Velshara screamed as she launched herself at the captain. Her blade went through armor like silk. The Varnak collapsed in silence. Then she dropped beside Jason. His armor was scorched. His breathing was shallow. "Still here," he whispered. "You fool," she said. "You noble, beautiful fool." She pressed her hand over his chest and began to chant something in her language. Her voice shook, but she didn't stop. Her blood began to glow. Jason gasped. The wound closed slowly. His eyes opened wider. What did you do?" "I returned." "What you gave," she said. "Life." The remaining enemies began to retreat. Ships lifted off, damaged and burning. They hadn't expected resistance this strong. They hadn't expected two hearts to beat as one. When the battle ended, the compound stood scarred but whole. The child ran from the shelter and leapt into Jason's arms. He held her close as Velshara stood beside him. Yates approached, bruised and bleeding, but smiling. "They'll think twice before trying that again," Jason nodded. "This place is more than walls now. It's a message." The council arrived later that day. Not with threats, but with recognition. Jason and Velshara were declared peace wardens, guardians of cross-species diplomacy. The child was granted dual heritage under both banners. No species had ever been bonded like this before. Jason stood before the crowd, holding the child in one arm, Velshara's hand in the other. He looked out at the delegates, the soldiers, the press. "You feared the unknown, but I bled for it. I loved it. And it loved me back." Velshara stepped forward. "Together we prove that unity is not weakness, it is strength." The child reached out to the mic and smiled. "No more war," she said, and the galaxy listened.